أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كل نفس ذائقة الموت ونبلوكم بالشر والخير فتنة وإلينا ترجعون صدق الله العظيم. The question for today is, what is something that will happen to every living being? Everything that is alive, what's going to happen to them? Go ahead.
Everything will die.
Everything will die, right? Everything that's alive, eventually, it will die. And during our lifetime, when we're alive, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tests us in different ways. Sometimes He tests us by not giving us something. Like, for example, He doesn't give us money, or He makes, we get sick. Or sometimes He tests us by giving us something. For example, He gives us a lot of money, He gives us a lot of toys, gives us a lot of games, or He gives us really good health. So He tests us in different ways, sometimes by giving it or not giving it. Does that make sense? By giving something or not giving something. Now, how do we know? Because we want to pass every test, right? Like how you have a spelling test and social studies test and science test, all these different tests. So how do we pass a test if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us something good? If He gives us, for example, a lot of money, how do we pass that test? Yes?
Be grateful.
Yes, very good. To be grateful, right? You have to be grateful. Okay. Now, how do we pass the test if something that He gives us is, quote unquote bad? If it's something bad, like for example, if we get sick, how do we pass that test?
Make dua.
Make dua. Okay, good. That's one way. What else?
Lay down, or if you can lay down and do your work.
Okay, you lay down and do your work. But how do we pass the test if something bad comes to us, if something bad befalls us? What do? Be patient, right? Be patient. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, what do we say? What did the Prophet, after we say the Prophet ﷺ, he said, very, very beautiful statement that applies to all of us Muslims. He said, "Ajaban li amril mu'min," that how strange is the matter of the believer. Inna amrahu kullahu khair, that every matter of his, every scenario, he can get reward. There's always goodness in every scenario, whether we think of it as good or we think of it as bad. He said, وَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ لِأَحَدٍ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ. That every scenario is good, that only applies to the believer. That only applies to the believer. In asabatu sarra shakara. For example, if he is given money or if he is given good health, then he shows gratitude, he shows gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him more. فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. Then that will be good for that person. And وَإِنْ أَصَابَتُ ضَرَّ صَبَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. And if that individual gets sick or gets into a motorcycle accident or gets injured or whatever, but he's patient at that time, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's going to give him reward at that time as well. So, we said in the beginning, what's going to happen to all of us?
Die.
Yeah, we're all going to die, right? Eventually, everybody's going to pass away. Now, after we pass away, who are we going to return to? Who are we going to go back to? Allah, right? We're going to go back to Allah. And when we go back to Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to look at all of the tests that He gave us, good and the bad. Then He's going to give us rewards accordingly. If we pass this test, He is going to give us a reward. If we fail this test, then He's not going to give us a reward for that. Okay? So the take-home point is what? That we be grateful for when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us something. And when He doesn't give us something, what do?
Be patient.
We be patient. Okay? Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.